Did you see a change, either positive or negative, in your bottom line, or did it pretty much,
I think we were a little busier, but so our normal day is we get calls all day long. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, when the pandemic hit, we would get, instead of one call, when somebody would call, I'd get 3 calls at once, but may not have nothing for an hour. And then one person would call and we'd have 2 others like right on it. They would come in clumps, and and that's the only thing I noticed that was out of the norm. Yeah. But it's all remote stuff. We were still doing, like, we do scheduled visits every month. Clients get certain days we go out and stuff. We were still able to do all that. I think we maybe missed 1 or 2 just because of the client, we were going to, or they bump it or something like that. But I think we're probably busier, but we were able to get some stuff done that we've just put off that's not important. Right. Because we had lapses of time in between, instead of just being steady busy. It being little clumps, and then we'd have a break for an hour or so in between. And so, we're about as efficient as we've ever been, because we've been able to catch up and stuff. And we had just moved offices, like over a lateral move in the office building we're in. So we were able to finish that, whereas we were just kind of doing it whenever we could do it. And so that's probably the only benefit we got out of that. We were a little busier, but it wasn't killing us.
Right. And I noticed that too in my world, where it was almost like ups and downs. So you would either be totally dead for 2 hours, or you'd have 100 customers in 2 hours. Right. And the good thing about that, and you bring up a good point, is we were able to accomplish some things in that store when it was dead for 2 hours that we weren't able to do during a normal day, where it's just steady. Every 5-10 minutes you're getting another order. So there was an advantage to that.
No, we did get a couple of new clients in that interim, because we had one out of state. Yeah. They just called and they said, I think it was Ohio, and they said nobody will even come out. We've called, they'll remote, but it takes them like days to call us back. So we were able to get them up and running remotely. They could get us in. And so that's kind of neat. Yeah. So we've gotten a couple of clients because they couldn't get anybody else, or, the problem with IT is you're scared to change unless you have to. Something crashes, which kind of sucks for us, because that means they crashed when they're saying, hey, come take a look at our stuff. And we're like, well, nothing's working. We don't know their system and stuff. So, they don't leave just because they don't like their IT. It has to be something detrimental to make them make that decision. And this was one of them. They just couldn't get a hold of anybody. And so they're saying, oh, let me call Steve. And we're like, hey, what do you need? And so we got a couple just for being available.
Yeah. And that's a very interesting point, and true, even from a company standpoint, sitting on this side of the chair. The thought of anything changing in a computer system blows my mind. I'm acclimated to how that computer works. And then if somebody tells me, well, it'd be a good idea to do this or a good idea to do that, I'm thinking, you're just wanting to make money. You're just trying to cost me more money than I want to pay. And the thing about it is, computers are something, especially in the IT business specifically, that I'm very comfortable around computers. And I would say I know more than the average bear about computers. But compared to what it's 1/100th likely of what especially on the IT side of it. So it's something that people don't just jump in and, hey, I want to do this. It's usually our computer has crashed and now we need to do this. So you mentioned Zoom type meetings, and one thing I wanted to get into is, had you seen any change in clients calling you and saying, hey, how does this Zoom thing work? How do I conference?
A lot of remote stuff, like before all this happened, you'd say web conference and people would just get hazed over, like, ooh, okay, yeah, I know we probably need to do that at some point. They didn't understand it. Now it's like the new normal. Everybody's doing Zoom meetings all over the place. I mean, you just can't get webcams. Right. So, that's the problem right now is we're waiting on web cameras and stuff to come in, but now it's the normal. So I probably have like 3 clients that said, hey, probably in September, we're going to probably stay like this, where we'll have some of them stay home and work remote, because it's actually working out, but they would have never tried it.
That's right.
If they didn't have to, because they didn't understand it. Oh, they can actually do the same amount of work from home that they're doing in the office.
Exactly my point. Yes, it's easier and it's a lot cheaper. And companies, you're looking at ways, especially your larger companies in general, they're seeing a drop off somewhat in sales and things like that. And so the way they're making up for it is they're cutting costs in other areas. Zoom has really, and I say Zoom, Microsoft has a version of, there's many. Yeah. So, but those type of conferencing systems, they're so easy to figure out now and so easy to use. The companies are like, we don't need regional reps going and visiting markets every week anymore. Instead of paying for that hotel room, instead of paying for this guy to leave town and use the gas and the insurance and all that thing, why don't we just have him Zoom his sales reps that maybe he's in charge of from home and or from his home office and give him the tax write-off, and we just saved ourselves a ton of money. And that's a positive thing maybe to come out of that for a larger company that may be struggling with, where am I going to cut some cost here because our bottom line's really getting hurt. Interesting stat that I saw. I'm in Leadership Livingston, and one of the things, you were in it. You graduated Leadership Livingston, as is your wife, and as is McHugh, who's sitting on the backside here. He's not saying much today, but he's the engineer and the brains behind this whole operation. So anyway, one thing, interesting stat that we did was we did our parish government day. I think it was week before last, but of course we Zoomed it because of everything going on. One of the interesting things with that is they showed the sales tax intake for April of this year and the sales tax intake from April of last year. Believe it or not, with all these businesses closed or only doing curbside, they actually had a increase in sales tax. Blew my mind. I would have never, assumed that, thought that. Sadly, it seems like it was kind of a feast or famine thing. It was either you were really, really busy or you had no business.